Well, if you're not happy on Christmas Eve anyway, then, and you happen to be a Tesla investor, then a little 31 point run on Christmas Eve would be a nice gift. What do you think?
It's not too bad, Randy. Not too bad. Nice way to go into Christmas.
So it seemed to me, I felt, I mentioned yesterday on my show in the morning that it just, I don't know, there was I had a gut feeling that there was a lot of, let's say, probably retail enthusiasm, but there's probably also some of the stuff you and I've talked about before with window dressing and whatnot that's happening. But I think a move like that today has to be mostly the retail folks just piling in.
Yeah, I would kind of agree. Well, first of all, today is day one of the Santa Claus rally, right?
Right.
Technically. Um, but I don't know. With today where everybody can trade and buy and do sell anywhere from their phone in the Robinhood instant gratification 0 day option kind of world, it's hard to know. It really is. I would say it's probably mostly retail. I would agree with you, but at the same time, yeah, you never know. I would be interested to see the comparison of volume trading year after year. Like maybe from like 2010 to now to
Right.
see what that looks like. But again, even that might not even really tell much of the story because again, with the advent of Robinhood and like I said, zero DTEs, etc. You do have a lot more retail involvement, more than ever. After COVID, it exploded.
Right.
So
And
it's hard,
especially in
hard to tell.
Tesla, and especially in Tesla, with my understanding, it's 10 million retail investors. So it's by far the number one retail stock.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
But that probably Palantir's up there. Yeah,
Yeah, okay. So yeah, then we're in that time of year when people start to make predictions and try to look forward, not just a few days, but the entire year or even longer. So I thought maybe we could have a lightning round with you. You can take as long as you want because we've got time. You look all relaxed and like you could, but you can do these in a sentence or you can do them in a paragraph or you can do them in, 5 minutes if you want. But let's start with this one. When is Juniper shipping in the United States?
March.
March. Okay, so most people think it'll ship in China. Pretty clear it's going to ship in China in January, but you think it'll take till March before we'll see it in the US. What about Berlin?
February.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. Okay, so we'll move out in February. All right, that'll be fun. All right. I'm
It's
okay.
it's gonna go from east to west.
Okay. All right. Cool. Well, I hope you're wrong. I'd like to see it in the United States, but I also think it needs to be coming out in Berlin too, because I think it'll be a big hit in Berlin. Okay. When does FSD become unsupervised?
2025.
Okay. Narrow it down a little for me, please.
I mean, I feel like that's pretty good. Um, okay, all right. Let me think. Let me think. I'll give you a 3 month span
That's
between
fine.
July and October.
Between July and October is when it becomes
That's 4 months.
supervised.
July, August, September, sometime there.
All right. And so when does robotaxi roll out?
Define rollout.
Uh, Actually start getting revenue.
Like just one ride, one person pays kind of thing.
Yeah, one revenue ride. I mean, the it's exposed somewhere,
Okay.
Austin, wherever,
Q3.
Q3 sometime. Okay. All right. When will your car have a conversation with you? Not just you saying something to it, but it having it's responding to you conversationally, better than Siri.
It won't.
It won't ever.
None of only in cybercab
Oh,
or
oh,
AI5 vehicles.
AI5 vehicles and only in the cabs. So will you be able to give it some instructions if it's stuck in a regular AI 3 or 4 car?
You won't need to.
You won't need to. Okay, I'll let you elaborate on that one.
It'll be good enough where you won't have to.
You'll
You
never.
won't have that. That question won't make sense. It'll be that good.
Okay, all right, okay, but I've been looking forward to having a conversation with my car. What's wrong with you? You got trying to blow my
It,
bubble.
it it'd be like saying, "Who do you talk to in the elevator when the elevator doesn't work?"
Well, there's
You're
a.
like, "What do you?" That's the dumbest question in the world. Is what you would say. Like that's like you have brain issues. It'll be like that.
I see. All right. Okay. All right. Well, we're gonna be more on that subject in a minute then. All right. So, what
I
what
hope you're
gear?
writing these down because I'm telling you right now, these are going to be insanely accurate,
I
and no one's
see.
ever going to remember this. So
Well, we can certainly get a transcript to you. What is the more affordable car, and when will it ship in each market?
okay. Well, all right. Now this is where I might not be as accurate.
Oh, okay. All right.
Um, we'll probably see something announced about it at the end of Q1, early Q2.
Okay.
It'll start shipping in China first, probably around midsummer to again early Q3.
Mhm.
So sometime between Q2, early Q3, I imagine. Um, Germany will have the same timeline as China, and we won't see it in the States. I don't even know if we'll see it in the States.
Wow. Wow. Interesting. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. When does Tesla hit $600 a share?
Oh man. Um, oof, Randy, that's a question. Um, let's see. When does it hit 600 a share? It's a good question. Um, sorry, buddy. I know this isn't riveting. I'm thinking. Um,
It's my show. I'm the one who set you up.
yeah. Let's say January of 2020. All right. Earliest, I would say
Uh-huh.
September of 2025.
Okay.
More likely closer to January of 2026.
Okay. What about $1,000 a share?
Oh man. Um, it has to be like 2028,
2028.
maybe 2027. But
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. When does Optimus get revealed? Meaning that we know what the feature set is, what the ship date is, what the specs are, and what the prices, how it's going to be priced out. When does that all get revealed?
earliest 2028.
2028. Wow, you are popping my bubbles. I mean, one after another. All right. Okay. Earliest 2028.
Mm-hmm.
2028. Okay. So Elon's going to be way off on this one, huh? Okay. What percent of current FSD owners put their cars out to make money after it's offered?
I feel like you have to split this into two questions.
Okay.
What percent of the ones who bought FSD outright versus
Hmm.
what percent of people who have a subscription?
Okay.
Of the people that bought it outright, 90+%.
90% will put it out. Okay.
Yeah. The people that are on subscription, 30-40%, and it'll continue to rise.
As more people put it on subscription just so they can use it for that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Um, when FSD unsupervised hits, will Tesla need to max out every single factory in order to keep up with the demand?
Mm, say that question again.
When FSD unsupervised actually becomes a thing, so it's 100%, you can sleep in the back seat, you can, work on your computer while you're driving along, and that happens, and it becomes known, and it's out there. Everybody knows it, of course. Uh, will Tesla end up maxing out all their factories over the next, 3 months or 4 months or whatever in order to keep up with the demand?
I think it would take like a solid year for there to be enough demand build up because getting the word out and people understanding it will take a while. I don't think adoption is going to be as quick as people think from a FSD and supervised perspective. I think robotaxi will be a lot faster of adoption than people trusting the car to do its own thing.
All right, so let's say robotaxi is rolled out broadly in 3 months later. You're starting to see it broadly. Well, who knows when, but let's just say 3 or 4 months later, you've got a broad robotaxi expansion. Would that then cause Tesla to be demand constrained?
Probably because at that point they're probably struggling to produce enough cybercaps, I imagine.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Will Elon be successful with Doge?
Oh, I think it depends how you define success. Um, like is the okay? Give me some more parameters. Like, what's the metric for success? Is
Elon thinks it.
success?
Elon thinks it's successful. He looks back and he goes, "That was well done."
I think he'll look back and say that he wished that they could have done more, but they did what they could given the constraints that they had.
Okay, so will the majority of the public look back and say that it's successful?
I think it depends on your political leanings. I think the left will say, "Oh, they didn't do X, Y, Z, which they said they were going to do." On the right will say, "Well, we made tremendous progress." So I think it'll be a very decisive. I don't think it'll be a clear cut. Um, the only way it'll be clear cut would be even then. Like I just feel like anyone who is on the other side is always going to find something to complain about. Cause like even if they cut 2 trillion, they'll be like, "Oh, but it hurt XYZ people and this happened and that happened." And it's like, that had repercussions and they'll miss the forest for the trees.
Got it. All
So,
right.
it's so dependent. Um, yeah, it's hard to answer. I think it'll be successful. I don't think it'll be as successful as we would hope for it to be, but yeah.
Okay. All right. Will the pain of the medicine coming from Trump and Doge cause a recession in 2025?
Uh, it wouldn't be because of that.
Okay.
Um, yeah, that won't be what causes it if it happens, but I could see it happening uh, for a lot of reasons, but like mainly because of we just have such a big distribution in I don't want to say wealth, but like in the haves and have nots, and it's just getting even more and more polarized. And I don't know, I think that does something, right?
Mm,
Like everybody's not kind of winning at the
mhm,
same
mhm,
pace,
mhm, mhm.
and like I believe in capitalism all day long, but it's hard not to see the rising credit card debts. It's hard to not see like people just struggling to buy groceries. And I still see everybody out spending money left and right, even people I know who don't have money, but they're like, well, like I can't save because I don't have anything. I might as well get a little bit of enjoyment. And so it's like, okay, well, what happens when it's time to retire, right? I think you're going to see a whole generation of people that can't retire. What does that mean? What does that do to society? And does that keep jobs away from? I don't know. I feel like there's, and what I'm talking about might be like in 15 years from now.
I see. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I do feel like that there's something that eventually is going to kind of happen or has to happen to kind of reset. I don't know. I mean, do you agree with that at all? Like there seems to be like,
I feel, well, yeah. So I probably see it slightly differently than you do. I see this, but I do think there's a demographic shift taking place. I think that there is a wealth. I think the wealth division that you're talking about is definitely there. It's huge. Will it get worse or will it get better over the next 5 years? To me, it depends on what happens with all this AI and AGI and robots and robotic cars and methodologies for getting productivity up. If productivity goes up, it should float all boats. So the under $100,000 folks should do very, very well in that scenario. But if those things don't materialize as much as people think that they will or are hoping that they will, then the under $100,000 folks could sink into the abyss as the folks that have professional jobs and wealth, own property, own stocks, et cetera, just kind of run away and leave them, way behind.
yeah, that I feel like I don't know like some stuff that AI or anything like that. And I also think all that's kind of far away from us having like that type of impact on this problem. But I don't know. It's like we're gonna have a whole generation of people that, or I saw something perfect example that says like the average new home buyer now, like average, right? So averages are kind of skewed, but it says that they're like 48 years old or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's gonna be a whole generation of people who aren't even thinking about buying a house. And that's like the basics of the American dream.
Well, but if you're not
There's a
getting
whole
married and you're not having children, then you're not thinking that much about a house either, too. So that's
yeah,
that's
but
that's part of this kind of zeitgeist shift that's kind of hard to figure out.
but I think it feeds into each other too, right? It's like how can I even think about marriage and kids when I can't even afford to buy a house to be in there with them, right? And I can barely even afford to take care of myself. How can I take care of someone else? And then, like, I don't know. I feel so bad for people who are just getting out of college or still in their 20s. Like, I don't know how. I really hope people have good jobs, but I don't know. Anyways, I think that could be the thing that could cause a recession is like finally something breaks that we don't see.
Yeah.
Again, we see crazy credit card debts, we see crazy
Right.
car loans, we see high delinquencies, we see a record number of companies going into bankruptcy. I mean, like all this is out there, and we're still chugging along. But even then, if you look at the S&P 500, if you take out the Mag 7, it's ugly, it's horrendous.
Right.
If you look at the unemployment, if you took out government jobs, it's horrible. It's horrendous. So
take out undocumented workers' jobs.
Exactly. Yeah. So my thing is like there's so much tape that's around here, and there's so much makeup. What happens when the makeup comes off? And eventually the makeup will come off. Eventually it'll be 11 p.m. and we'll see what things really look like before clock strikes midnight. So I don't know. When does that happen is the question. I don't think Doge causes it. If anything, Doge could be a remedy to it.
Well, yeah, okay, but what I was talking about is potentially what Elon said, we could have some pain. And then I was listening to a CNBC article. I know it's probably no good, but I was listening to, it was a good discussion. And the idea was Trump is going to break a lot of stuff this year. He's going to throw up tariffs possibly in different ways at different places. We're going to have the Doge Commission, which is hopefully going to eliminate some government jobs, some government spending. The government spending trickles down. Of course, you buy stuff from a company, that company employs people. So if they reduce the amount of spending or they get better deals on on those things that they're buying. These are all going to move through the economy. Again, there's going to be a lot of different things that are going to be very different in 2025 than they were in 2024 in terms of governance. And when you have all that change taking place, and you throw in AI and possibly robotaxi, et cetera, you could end up having a painful moment or two as you transition into something a lot better.
Yeah, I don't know. I hear you, but when he talks about the pain, I don't think it's pain like that. I
Uh,
think it's going to be, a lot of people are going to get laid off, and it's going to be painful for them. Um, it's going to be a shock to the system, that they weren't expecting, but I don't think it means a shock to the economy. If
mm,
anything, I think it helps, cut the ties that are holding down the economy in many ways.
mhm,
So, I don't know. I see it a little differently. I think the pain that he refers to is kind of, you know, the shock to the system more so than anything to the economy.
okay. All
But
right.
we'll find out. I think Doge will be net good no matter what.
Yeah, well, I believe that as well. All right. So, have been having a conversation a little bit over the last year or two about what what Optimus really means. Okay. And most people that have never owned a business, especially if they've never owned a factory or a distribution center, they automatically think of it in terms of what would I do with it in my home. And most people, when they start thinking about what they do in their home, for some reason, gravitate to things like folding the clothes, and making dinner, washing the dishes afterwards. And so Gary Black sends me a note the other day. He says, Randy, I can't imagine the average person spending $30,000 for one of these Optimus or Optimi, because that they're not going to spend $30,000 even on a car. Why are they going to spend it on an Optimi? And I thought, well, okay, but the average car sells for 45. Anyway, I could have had that argument, but that wasn't the argument I was interested. The question is, what is the value of Optimi in my home? And my first glance around the house was, I'm not going to use it to wash my dishes. I'm not going to, probably, I mean, it could, but it's not why I would get it. And I wouldn't use it for folding my clothes. If I did, it wouldn't be a reason to spend 30,000. But I did come up with a list. And I think it's a very unique list. I don't think anybody else is thinking of Optimus this way. I could be wrong, but I've never seen a list like mine. So I want to go through the list and see what you think about the list, and maybe you'll add to it. Maybe you'll tell me I'm crazy, but I think it's going to be worth way more than 30,000 to a household. So let's start with number one, a companion and a resource. And by that, I mean, I find it easier to talk to my dog. I don't have a dog, but when I had a dog, or my cat, I find it easier to talk to my dog or my cat than I do to my phone as far as having a conversation, asking for resources, asking for it to get me something that I need. I'm like, no problem talking to my cat, but it's really seems awkward with this. But with a humanoid, I think it would seem like normal to talk to a humanoid.
Are these stack ranked? Is that your number one that you'd pay 30 grand for? That's your number one?
No, I'm not sure. There's so many good things. I'm not sure which one would be number one, but that would be something that I think would be extremely valuable. You can say, well, I could talk to my wife, talk to my kids, whatever, talk to my neighbor, bring my friend over. But there's tons of time when especially with home, I'm a home, I work out of my home, you work out of your home. There's plenty of times when I'm the only one in the house. And it would be great to have that companion to talk to.
Okay, I'm gonna assume you're not stack ranking these. And let me just refer back to Gary Black's. That's the dumbest thing I have ever heard anyone say, Randy. Like literally, that is. That, I, I'm sorry, he's an idiot. I don't know how else to say this.
Oh,
That is,
he's the dumbest. He's the dumb
yes,
one. I thought you were
yes,
talking about your friend here.
no, no. To say that, well, no one even pays 30 grand for a car. Why would they be like, you have to be brain dead? I don't know.
All right. So do you think it would be a good companion and resource? Do you think you would talk to it easier than you can ask your phone for stuff like that? Just because
Yes,
it's in a
but
humanoid form?
yes, but that's not why I would buy it
All right.
for
Okay.
30 grand.
Number two reason, it would be a phenomenal medical practitioner. So it would have your medical data stored in it. You would say, "Hey, I got this mole that seems to be turning a little darker." He would come over, be able to examine it, think about it, and make a decision. Your kids are sick. You can, give it the what's going on with the kid. The kid could talk to it. The eyes, the ears, the smell, everything else. It would have all these capabilities that would be superhuman in many ways. And then it can make a judgment whether this needs now to be uploaded to a doctor someplace.
I like that one. That's pretty good. Still wouldn't pay 30 grand for that, but that's pretty good.
Okay.
I like that one. That's a unique one. I've definitely not heard that one, but yeah, that's a good one. I like it.
Okay. Number three, it could be a security guard. It would have all of the data from your cameras around the house 100% of the time. It would never not be aware of what your security devices were doing around the building. And if anything tried to break in, it would be more aware. And then it would be a bodyguard if somebody managed to get through the security devices.
Um, I like the idea. I don't know if it's the best security guard because my Second Amendment gives me the best security guard. Um, and I also don't know if he'd be able to be a bodyguard because I think they won't allow it to do certain things like that. So I don't know. I feel like that's a very fine line.
Even if it only was blocking and restraining, holding, scaring, yelling.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a fine line. Um, I don't know how that would work.
Okay, now
But
the
that's why we got our
next
Second Amendment, Randy.
the next one was one that I talked about for a long time, so it's not new, but I'm just going to add it in. I wouldn't pay 30,000 for it, but people do spend 10,000 for really, really good massage chairs. And this would be the best massage chair ever because you could direct it, you could tell it harder, softer, go here, go there, don't go there, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, I know. Your mind is just you can't do this without thinking
You're
that.
saying the words. I'm just reacting to your words.
I
Harder,
don't
softer, not there.
I don't like going to having, whether a man or a woman, I don't like having a massage with a human being doing it. I've done it once, I didn't like it. So, but a bot, man.
Yeah, I love a masseuse. I probably go once a month. So, um, yeah, I do like that one though. I do think
Okay.
that's a good one too.
All right. How about
And just real quick, back to the security one.
yeah.
What would be good for is you're in bed, you heard something, and you'd be like, Optimus, go do a quick round of the house.
Yeah.
And should something be abnormal, it could immediately call the cops and give a siren alarm so you can know to grab your kids, lock the door, again, grab your protection, and be ready. I think that would make a lot more sense.
Yeah, I was just one of the things that I was thinking about was the you see the movies all the time with the security guard sitting in front of all the camera, all the screens from all the stuff around the building. Well, you can't do that you're not going to do that in your home if you
Yeah.
have cameras all around your building. But the bot would be aware of it 100% of the time without having to do anything. It would have a 100% awareness.
Yeah.
Okay, number 5 is one of my favorites. I just came up with this one this morning. Handyman. So it's one thing that I can go on YouTube and find out how to change my light bulb, but it's another thing if I don't feel sophisticated enough to do the work, and I can have the bot go over and actually do that electrical work or do that plumbing or help me with the plumbing, or it would have the information as well as the skill sets.
That would be amazing. If you could be like, hey, go put up this piece of drywall, mud it, texture it, sand it, paint the wall after. Whew. If it could do that, oh my goodness. Yeah,
I'm gonna
that'd
skip,
be
I'm
amazing.
gonna skip ahead because it's kind of a related, and I call it number 9, it's assistant or third hand. So not only a handyman, but let's say you're doing the job, but your brother, your neighbor, your dad, whoever, they're not available to come over and help. with the job that's really a two-man job, all of a sudden you've got that second person, the person to hold it while you hammer, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Or just being you're in the middle of something like, hey, go get me a Phillips. You know,
Right,
like
right, right. Yeah, you're under the
like
car and you need somebody to hand you the wrench. Yeah, yeah.
wait for what?
I know. You don't repair cars anymore. I know. Okay, so so all right. My next one is gardener. Now I have a black thumb. I kill everything. Okay. What if it's green, it doesn't live with me. Okay. So I have all fake plants everywhere because I just killed plants. Okay. So but a garden, if it was a gardener, now it knows the lighting that the plant, how to choose the plants based on the location it's going to go in. It knows how to when to water them, how often. It will never forget to. It knows which food to feed it. It knows which kind of soil to pot it in, whatever it is. So whether it's fruits, vegetables, flowers, whatever it is, trees, hedging, all the kinds of things that it's complicated. It's hard to do, as well as there's a lot of knowledge required. It would be just like the best gardener ever. And you could probably have, fruits and vegetables growing, in your garden and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, just mowing the lawn. Like as simple as that. That's yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be
I'm
really
thinking
impactful.
the hard stuff like the gardening. I mean, that's even,
Yeah.
you're okay. So you're with me. Okay. All right. How about a competitor? So you didn't like my companion and resource that much, but let's add to it that now it can become my poker partner, or my gin rummy partner, or maybe even my ping pong partner. Certainly my shuffleboard, or any kind of game, board games, card games, etc. I'm looking for somebody to join me in the game. I got an instant second, ready to go.
I like that actually. That's pretty good. Or you can extrapolate that to just being a teacher. You
Ah,
know,
yeah. Oh, that's
like
next. Coach.
oh, okay, yeah. I mean, because you imagine like you're sitting there playing poker and you're like trying to like better learn how to quicker analyze you know, the odds of the pot odds, or where Texas Hold'em, we just have the river left. Like, what are the odds that there's a king left? Like, like help me figure this out. Like, how do I do it quicker? Could teach you things like that. How do I spin the ping pong ball before I hit it so it has so when it hits, it's got a reverse backspin. Little things like that would be cool.
Yeah.
This is a really full fledged Optimus that we're talking here. This Optimus really has advanced.
Well, this knowledge base is already there, so it's just a matter of spinning it out. And so, if you like, you're helping your kid learn how to hit the ball, well, I can't be there all day. I got to go to work, and I want my kid to become a top, player on his in his high school team. Well, it would be way more fun if my own son, he was a really good baseball player. I was going to buy him a batting cage, but he wouldn't prove to me that he would work out that often. But if he'd had a robot to go out with him and to coach him and to work with him while he was in the batting cage, I think there was a good chance he would have done it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I would use it for that.
Okay. Assuming reasoning capacity, so we got to get to the next level. What do you call it? OpenAI claims that their new set that came out on what was that, Friday or Monday or whatever day it was, has reasoning capacity. So assuming reasoning capacity, it could give recommendations about future actions or avoidance of problems throughout the house, throughout the kids, whatever's going on. So it could be just sitting there watching everything that's going on and go, I think you should probably clean up that mess over there before somebody gets hurt. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not the best one you've had so far, but yeah, that's pretty good.
All
That's
right, and then finally, if you do have a home business, any kind of home business, it would be the natural helper for shipping, for receiving, for unpacking, packing, maybe even assembly or production. Any kind, all the home business kinds of things. We think about it in terms of a factory or a distribution center, but a home business, it would be the natural aid.
That makes sense.
All right.
I feel like you left some out that I feel like are just
Good,
the most
good, good.
obvious ones.
Help me out. Help me out. No,
Well, like,
I didn't put the obvious ones in, like the walking the dogs and babysitting the kids and those kind of things. So, but maybe you got some other.
well, I mean, because you started this off talking about like Gary Black said, who's going to pay 30 grand for whatever, and it's like, okay, well, you just said one right there, babysitting a kid.
Yeah,
You know how much childcare is?
yeah,
You know how much
yeah.
people pay for childcare?
Right.
Okay, so we have that. You just mentioned walking the dog. Well, you know what? Sometimes you got work, or sometimes you want to go out on vacation and you don't want to put your dog,
In a
either
kennel.
your dog can't travel with you don't want to put him in the kennel, but you still want to take him out, and you don't want someone to stay at the house. Boom, you got one right there. Right. So that's another cost saving. The, the, um, obviously a handyman, that's a great one, I think, because a handyman, like, you pay people constantly. Yard work, you pay people to come do your yard, or you waste your time doing that. One way or another, someone's got to do it. You take that out of the equation, either you're saving money or you're buying back your time with that,
Oh,
right? So those are,
pulling weeds alone. That would be worth 30,000. There's one. That's
yeah,
worth 30,000 all by itself. Yeah.
but so that's four right there,
Right.
that each, like, all those right there in 1 year, I would say you could probably almost make maybe 2 years. You make your money back for 30 grand on a bot. But then this next one I have would make it so you make it back probably like in 6 months. An at-home chef, like,
Ah,
just someone, something that can be there and make all your meals for you, clean up right after, do all the clean your house, right? Go out and do the grocery shopping for you.
right.
Like, it does all of this for you. Like,
Right.
like you're telling me all that is not worth 30 grand? Like, are you insane? Like, do you lack imagination? Like,
Yes, that was my point. This is my point last week. I don't know if you were watching one of my other shows, and I talked about this all week. Is the difference between the Gary Blacks? I'm sorry, Gary, and I'm not putting Gary down. I like Gary. I think he's a fine analyst. But I was watching that debate between Gary Black and Dan Ives, and it was like, where's the imagination, guys? Why can't you see the future? Why can't you think about just what we did, what we just went through this, and go, I can picture where these uses are. Has Gary never sat down and thought through this list as all these possibilities? How hard is that? So I think there's a lack of imagination sometimes with investors, and that might be, we talk about the information arbitrage that's available to retail investors, but maybe it's the imagination arbitrage.
yeah, I mean, on that interview, I think Jeff did a great job, because at one point Gary says, like, you know, tell me what the cost per mile is going to be, or the per ride, and tell me when it's going to launch. And
Yeah, right.
Jeff's like, well, that's why you have to do the homework, and you have to come up with your own conclusions. Like, sorry, we can't just spoon feed this to you.
Right.
Like, on when it's going to happen. We don't know.
Yeah.
We know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
We just don't know when, and we
Right.
don't know how fast. So the question is, do you think it's going to happen? Yes or no? Okay. I think pretty much everybody, even Gary Black, would say yes, it's going to happen.
Mhm.
Okay. So next question is, do you think it's going to happen? Okay. Let's talk about the TAM, because that was the other big thing that they
Right.
kind of back and forth.
Right.
Do you think that this will grow the addressable market or not? Because Gary kept using old addressable markets and using that as like status
Right.
quo, versus Jeff's point is like, that's just not the way things are going to work, right? If you lower the cost, you grow the TAM, whether it's Optimus or anything. So make your own conclusions on that, and then just extrapolate and figure it out. Make your, like, he does no self-thinking. It's spoon feed me. And then the irony is he wants to be told, but then he says, well, all analysts know you don't trust management and take their word for what they say. But at the same time, I want them to tell me the answer to the test. So which is it? It was honestly the most hypocritical circular logic I've ever seen, and nobody could articulate anything as well as Jeff did.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to be the experts,
Yeah.
and that just shows me, like, just how brain dead just analysts are in general. They don't think for themselves. They're stuck in spreadsheets. And Dan Ives supposedly has the imagination, but even he can
Mhm.
hardly articulate.
Mhm.
All he says is the same phrase all the time. I see it as the sum of the parts. That's all he says, but he can't articulate what the sum of the parts are, how they work, how they're going to grow individually. It just blows my mind.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
blows my
yeah,
mind, Randy.
yeah. Yeah, no, so you got to see it really in that show. You got to see virtually no imagination. Then you got Dan Ives with a little bit of imagination. Then you got Jeff with a lot of imagination. And then I feel like this list that you and I just went through, this is where this is where Elon is and beyond. He had this list 5 years ago when he first thought of the idea. And he also had that list with regard to the factory because he lives in the factory all the time. And it's like it was for me as a factory owner, it was so easy the first time I ever saw an Optimus. I sent Gary the list of the 10 Optimi that I would have bought immediately. $1 million, $100,000 a piece was his number. I would have put that. I'm a little company, 5 million a year. I would have written the check, not for $1 million, but for the first month of my lease for 10 of them immediately because I could have made money off of those 10 from day one.
Did he reply?
Not to that one. So he didn't actually, now that I think about it. But I mean, I know it's hard for people to understand, but I guess the easiest way I can say it is one of the things we did was bottle capping. Okay, I think that Optimus right now, the Optimus that we've seen, could take a cap and put it on a bottle. I think it could. Okay.
Oh, I'm sure it could.
I'm sure it could. Okay. So I paid 9 people to put caps on bottles.
Oh,
9.
wow.
Six on first shift and 3 on second shift. That's all they did. They picked up the bottle, they put the cap on, put the bottle into a box. That's what they did. Okay, you can buy a machine to do that. Now, there's lots and lots of machines for the kind that you spin on, but these are bicycle water bottles that have the little tether and you have to pull them over and pop them on. Okay.
Oh,
So to buy that machine, to do that, I was told, and this is 25 years ago or 30 years ago, $100,000 for that machine. And I was ready to pay $100,000 for that machine, but they wouldn't guarantee me it was going to work. I said, if you'll guarantee me, I'm writing the check. They wouldn't guarantee
wow.
it's going to work. Now, I would have had a fixed piece of equipment for $100,000 to do that job, or I could buy an Optimus for $100,000 who could come in, who we know is going to do the job from day one, can demonstrate before I ever pay for it that it can do the job. And not only that, if he's not capping bottles, can go off and pick up boxes and move them from here to there or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna ask, aren't there machines that that cap bottles?
Oh,
But
yes, there's definitely lots and lots of machines for the normal kind of bottles that we have every day for, that have a spin cap. All right, so that's my list. I'm sticking to it. I'll put it up later today on X too, and we'll have some fun with it. We'll have other people comment on the difference. We'll add the list the ones that you just gave me, and then as you said, we'll have to keep this one as something to look back on a year from now and see what you were wrong about. The number one thing you're going to be wrong about is the reveal of Optimus, of course.
okay.
Be revealed in
Uh,
2020, late 2025. Yeah.
well, remember you said pricing and shipping and all that. So
Pricing, shipping, specs, yep, all of it, late 2025. Well, I mean, Elon
like,
said he's going to ship in 2026. You got to be able to reveal it if you're going to ship it, right?
we'll see.
Okay. All right, let's take a quick look. Last thing here, take a look at what happened in the market today and see if any of it makes sense. So we've got the Dow went up 390, NASDAQ up 266, the S&P up 60, almost 6, and Tesla up 3168 after hours, another $1.70, and the Mag 7 100% up, although NVIDIA, after being strong the last couple of days, barely managed to get above the green.
Yeah, it's been a while. I mean, today was just a weird day. I feel like we can't make much sense of today.
All of the Kathy Woods went up today because, believe it, whoops, darn it, that we don't need that. because believe it or not, I can't get rid of this movie. The bonds ended up, the 10-year actually ended up negative today. It had been up like 3 basis points and it ended up down 0.8. I
Mm.
think that caused the Kathy Woods to go up late in the session because I think you've heard me talk about it. I think the bonds are in control right now. I think it's the number one thing that needs to be solved. And if we have inflation, if inflation keeps hanging in there, it's not going to get solved in 2025. So thoughts?
Um, well, no, I think we're not going to see a rate cut for a while. um, yeah, I think we're in for a little bit of a bumpy January, February, March. So that's kind of
Could
where
be.
I'm at.
Could be. Yes. Well, I think a lot of uncertainty. So one of the other things they said on the CNBC show was optimism, tons of optimism in business, even among the consumers. Everybody's optimistic about the new year, but there's also uncertainty. So you've got that kind of, you've got a mix of the two going on.
I mean, we did get a surprising PCE cooling, so that is something. But yeah, I don't know. Things definitely seem to be slowing.
Yeah. Okay. Oil, right in the same ballpark, $70. Natural gas up 8% today. So maybe there's a cold snap somewhere. I don't know. I didn't read to find out why natural gas would jump 8%. I mean, it's not unusual to see it jump 3, go down 2,
Hmm.
but 8% in one day.
Yeah, it's a jump.
That's a jump. Gold up $5, right in its range. Silver similar, $30.23, right in its range. Copper up 0.43, totally in its range. Bitcoin finally responded. It finally bottomed out, I guess, jumping 5,676.
Yeah, I feel like
6%.
that's yeah, I feel like that's all Michael Saylor.
Michael Saylor. So Michael Saylor, talk to us about what Michael Saylor did.
Oh, well, I mean, he keeps buying, not only just buying, but um he keeps on. He's trying to raise more. I mean, I don't even know what you call it at this point, but it seems like he's trying to sell more of the company, sell more shares, right?
Yeah.
So essentially to dilute existing shareholders,
Yes.
which would normally send a stock down, right? Like imagine Tesla. Imagine Tesla said we want to raise funds by selling more of the company,
Right.
right? You'd be like, oh no, don't do that. But instead, this kind of became bullish for MicroStrategy today, and I think same for Bitcoin. It's weird. I struggle to get my mind around it because here's how I think about it. If you have one entity, one company, one person who seems hell bent on owning as much as they can, I think he's said like 10% or it's given some number like that. At a certain point, you would think one that this kind of like goes against the idea of what it is,
Yes.
right? The purpose of Bitcoin. Um, but then at the same time, you start to think from a MicroStrategy perspective, at a certain point, like it's a house of cards
Yeah.
because it's so leveraged. Like at a certain point, what happens when MicroStrategy has so much Bitcoin that's just at parity? Like then what?
Yeah.
So I don't know. So it just seems weird. I I
It,
can't make
it,
sense of it. It doesn't
yeah.
make sense in my head. So I can't do
Yeah,
anything.
it reminds me of 2006, the first time that I've truly understood what the mortgage industry was doing with derivatives. And I wrote a
Yeah.
blog post in 2006 and I said, this is messed up. There is a serious problem here and it's not going to end well. And that was a year before the crash because it's like the conversation you and I are having now. Sometimes things just don't sound right. If you got
Yeah.
derivatives that are you're packaging thousands of mortgages into a single piece of a single instrument, and then none of those properties can be properly valued,
Assess. Yeah.
assessed. What are you selling? And how can anybody make a judgment
Yeah.
about what that's worth anyway.
Yeah. How
So
do you know what's in there?
yeah,
Yeah.
so we know what's in there with Bitcoin, but do we really know what's in there with Bitcoin? Because we don't really know how this is going to
Yeah.
play out. Yeah,
Well, I feel like Bitcoin's not as much of an issue as MicroStrategy is.
right,
I
right.
think MicroStrategy is a house of cards. It's like two x, 3x maybe leverage.
Yeah,
I don't at this point. Sailor's been buying so much that I don't know what's at, but essentially, effectively, the company is worth 2 to 3 times what it has in Bitcoin, and the company itself isn't really generating revenue. But they do have earnings coming up, I think, in February,
yeah, yeah.
so that'll be interesting.
That will
Uh,
be interesting.
let's see, when are the earnings? And I'll tell you what, that's gonna be a conference call that is worth listening to. It's looks like it's maybe in February 4th. Looks like,
February 4th. Okay, all
or at
right.
least that's the guess. Guess
Yeah,
is February
yeah.
4th. So
All right.
that's a conference call worth listening to. If for no other reason, it'll definitely be it could be a historical one.
So yeah, for sure, and maybe a teaching moment. All right, I
Yeah,
thought.
I mean,
Yeah,
good or bad, right?
yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah. Right.
we could be completely wrong, and he just sees things that we don't see, and what everything he's doing makes sense, and we're like, oh man, I really didn't get it. Or it could be the other way
Yeah,
around.
the other way. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on and allowing me to ask you all these questions and have you help me understand my own list. So
No
I,
worries.
I want to wish you and your family a Merry Christmas, and we'll look forward to seeing you another week.
Absolutely. Merry Christmas to you and to everybody else. Cheers.
All right. And to all of you out there, Merry Christmas, and it's been great talking to you.